second curveball. It's his famous, well, the trilemma of which he is one of the, his is one of the famous expressions. So in Hume's terms, it's, is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is impotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Whence then is evil, says Hume. I'm sure that many Christians, perhaps most Christians, will have faced some version of that question in their time. What do you think is a helpful way of responding to that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we have to give Hume credit for giving us a particularly pithy statement of the logical problem of evil, that given that there is evil, it seems as though you have only three alternatives. Either God isn't good, or he isn't powerful, or he's not there at all. Because if he were both good and powerful, then he would eliminate evil. The problem is that there's a concealed assumption there, namely that an all-good, all-powerful God would eliminate evil completely. Whereas if it's the case that there are certain goods that can only be accomplished through the permission of evil in the world, that there are certain greater goods that not only presuppose the existence of evil, but also outweigh that evil, then God actually can have a morally sufficient reason, a good reason, a morally justifiable reason for permitting evil. And Hume does acknowledge that to some extent in the dialogues, but he doesn't really take it seriously. And so while his statement of the problem is quite good, I think his analysis of it, he gives in too easily. He doesn't really explore some of the more, I think, robust responses to that trilemma.
Yeah. I wonder whether one way of expressing that would be to say that in order to be confident in all the premises necessary for that statement, you would need to be God yourself, to know that there would be no greater good, for example, and to know that for certain.
That's right. Once you grant the possibility that God could have morally sufficient reasons for permitting evil, that there could be a greater good, then the burden
even if we don't
you.
necessarily know for certain what that would be.
Right. But my argument is that someone in Hume's position, if once they grant that possibility, then the burden lies with them. The burden of argument lies with them to argue that there could not be either reasons in general or good reasons for specific evils that we might point to in the world. And as you observe, one would really have to be in the position of God in order to make that. So ironically, it turns into a proof of God's existence, because you could only justify that claim if there were a God to provide epistemic warrant for it. But of course, neither Hume nor anyone else is other than God would be in a position to really evaluate whether all the evils of the world are such that there could be no justifying reason for God to permit them.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Certainly it's an appeal to mystery, but of course an appeal to mystery is entirely consistent and warranted by a biblical worldview. So there's nothing ad hoc about it for a Christian to appeal to that as part of a response to the problem of evil.